So here's a question for you. Good question, I think. Allied races. Why now? Why in Battle for Azeroth? Why not in the past? People have been asking for things like brown orcs, dark iron dwarves, and so on and so forth for years now. Years and years. So why now? Well, that is what I would like to talk about today because I think I understand what Blizzard is trying to do. And you know what? I like it. So what is Blizzard trying to do? Well, before we talk about what they're trying to do, we got to talk about what they were doing in the past over the past several years. So over the past several expansions in the game, Blizzard seems to have been focusing all of their time and their effort and their energy in the end game of World of Warcraft. Now, this is something that I've talked about many, many times before, about how the early game seems to have been, since Cataclysm, relatively abandoned. Like, yeah, sure, you'd get like, hey, a new monk class, and you'd see some people leveling up monks for a little while. But then after that, you know, you didn't really see anything. Then, of course, Blizzard introduced the whole, hey, if you buy our expansion, you get a free character boost so that you can just step into the new content. And I've criticized this in the past. Well, not really criticized, but I've kind of pointed out the fact that it almost seems like Blizzard has done two things. They've abandoned the early game. They've been like, nah, like, you know, people don't care about the early game anymore. And they've also maybe abandoned the idea, and this is the thing that I've been critical about. They've abandoned this idea of regrowing World of Warcraft. Back in Vanilla and Burning Crusade, WoW was climbing at a pretty steep rate, really, really fast. In Wrath of the Lich King, it plateaued. It climbed a little bit more after BC, and then it plateaued. And then after that, it's been on a slow decline until Warlords of Draenor, where it was like a roller coaster drop and people just left in droves. Now, we don't know how many people are playing World of Warcraft anymore. We don't know. Blizzard does not even report on subscription numbers anymore. They stopped doing that during Warlords of Draenor. And I've talked about in the past how, personally I think that World of Warcraft has the potential to regrow itself as a game depending on how Blizzard approaches the situation going forward. And one of the things that I've been very critical about is, hey, if you want to regrow the game, you need to make the experience of the game for a new player fresh and satisfying and enjoyable. And this is why I think Blizzard is doing the whole allied races thing now. Whereas in the past, World of Warcraft was more focused on the end game, ever since we've had a change in the game's leadership, seems like Blizzard is saying, yeah, we're going to focus on the end game, but we're not going to forget about the early game. One of the cool new things that we got in the latest patch was zone scaling. It allows people to stay in their favorite zones longer, finish the storylines, get the achievements, and that's really cool. I really like that. We also got a buff to the open world, whereas you could just pull like an infinite number of mobs and kill them in just 1 or 2 hits. Blizzard is now like, hey, the mobs are a little bit harder to kill, especially if you don't have looms. They take a little bit more time, and it makes questing a lot more engaging, and personally, I like that. I don't care if it takes a little bit longer. I'd rather something take a little bit longer and I actually have my brain turned on and I gotta think a little bit than me just mindlessly pressing 1 and 2 and killing everything in my path. To me, that's boring. And also, to go along with these two things, we have the allied races coming out. If you go to Duskwood right now, for example, and you go to Darkshire, you're probably going to see a lot of people leveling Lightforged Draenei and Void Elves. And it's pretty cool. You see a lot of people running around out in the open world, whether it's Duskwood, Stranglethorn Vale, the Barrens. Doesn't matter. You see a lot of people running around here, there, and everywhere, leveling up their allied races. And here's the thing. There's a lot to criticize in World of Warcraft's early game. First thing, it's too easy. Blizzard has addressed that. They've made it a little bit harder. Number 2, people have said, hey, we're finishing zones too quickly. We're out-leveling zones too fast. Blizzard has fixed that. And another thing, and this is where the allied races come in, another thing is that the world feels empty. The world feels empty. You see, here's the thing about an allied race. If Blizzard just released a new race, let's just say they released kobolds as a new race in Battle for Azeroth, people will be like, oh, kobolds. They'll make kobolds, they'll make their kobold shaman, their kobold mage, whatever. They'll level them up primarily in that one expansion, and then after that, there's going to be a void of players in the old world yet again. But unlike a new basic bitch race that everybody can play as from day one, allied races have a requirement attached to them. You need to get exalted with a certain faction, or who knows what Blizzard will come up with in the future. What that means is that down the road, let's just say 7 months from now, there's going to be somebody that's going to be like, hey, I really want to play as one of those Highmountain Tauren. And they're going to go back and they're going to be questing in Highmountain and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to be getting reputation. They're going to unlock their Highmountain Tauren and they're going to be leveling them out in the open world. This same thing applies a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. It doesn't matter. It's sort of, it doesn't fix the problem, but forevermore, until the end of World of Warcraft, and as long as there are people to play it, and as Blizzard is releasing more and more allied races, it's going to put more people back into the open world, back into the original world. It's not going to just be like a big surge of players playing this new race temporarily, and then you're not going to really see too many people leveling pandas again. Rather, it's going to be a bunch of people over a long period of time. Their interests are going to change. And one day right now, you might be like, hey, I don't want to play as a Nightborn. Fuck the Nightborn. I don't care about them. But hey, maybe 2 years from now, you're going to be like, you know what I'd really like to play? A Nightborn. I really like their racials. I really like what Blizzard did in patch 9.7. Like, I really like what they did to the racials of that race. I think I'm going to go grind some reputation and I'm going to get myself the Nightborn unlocked. And then, hey, you're a Nightborn. You make a new one, you're leveling up in the old world, and you're filling the old world and making it feel full of players. You're adding to that. And I think that that is very, very cool. So this is why I think Blizzard is doing this allied races thing right now. Because Blizzard has shifted their philosophy. I think that in the past, and I'm serious when I say this, I think that Blizzard totally gave up in the idea of, hey, regrowing World of Warcraft, bringing new players into the game, making the game more appealing for like that new guy that's stepping in and playing for the very first time. Sure, when you come in for the first time and you're like, oh, you know, hey, like it's cool, like, you know, look at this cool world and I'm questing through Elwyn Forest and Stranglethorn Vale. Yeah, that's great and dandy, but if you're not seeing anybody around, if there's nobody to, like, you know, communicate with, nobody to talk to, if you're just out leveling zones and it's really easy, stupid piss easy, you're gonna get bored really fast. And Blizzard is addressing that. So I like to think that Blizzard is, I like to think that they have sort of re-energized themselves with this new game director and this, like, just this new layout of staff. They've brought this new energy in, and they've said, hey, we had a hiccup in Warlords of Draenor, but you know what? We're going to try to bring the game back, and the first step is we have to fix the early game in some ways to entice new players and to make leveling less tedious, less boring, and we will see what they do for the end game going forward. But that is just my theory. That is what I think. That's just me being optimistic. Listen, I love World of Warcraft. I love this game. It was my childhood. It was my teenhood. Now it's like my adulthood in a lot of ways. So I love this game. I want to see it succeed. I want to see more people playing it. I want to see more people falling in love with the world that I fell in love with. Both older people that have never played the game before and young people who have never played the game before. Like, that's what I'm passionate about. I'm always thinking about the new guys, the new people, and what's their experience going to be with World of Warcraft when they log in the first time. So I think what Blizzard is doing is pretty cool. We will see how it plays out going forward. We will see if World of Warcraft continues to grow or if it just kind of stagnates. We will see. But from what I can tell, or for what I'm looking at, it seems like there's new energy in the World of Warcraft development team, especially through Legion, going into Battle for Azeroth, and I'm just really excited to see where the game goes going forward. So again, that's just my theory. That's what I think. I think that's why they're doing the whole allied races thing. Guys, what do you think? You know, do you agree with me? Do you think there is hope for regrowing World of Warcraft and bringing it back to its glory days? Or, you know, maybe not all the way back to 12 million subs, but definitely just climbing back up a bit. What do you guys think about that? Or do you think World of Warcraft had its time, it's over, you know, blah, blah, blah? I think it can go back up. Maybe not 12 million, but I think it could climb back up to like 7 million one day. But we'll see. But that's just me being optimistic. But that's all I really had to say today, guys. Thank you for listening, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next time on another exciting video. And I don't know, maybe I'll rant about dungeons or something. Like, I don't know. I want to rant about something. It's been a while since I've yelled and screamed and whined about something, so I want something to whine about. So I'll think of something. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all very soon.